Alright, so today I wanted to focus on the tournament winners from this past weekend. These are the 4 decks that they brought to the tournament, and I thought it'd be interesting to take a look whether you actually want some new decks to be able to climb better on ladder, or if you're interested in joining a future tournament, because it looks like we're going to have a pretty similar format. That format was bring 4 decks. You get to ban 1 deck from your opponent, and then you play in a best of 3. Up into the finals, it was a best of 5. Some of those details might change a bit, but it's still looking like it's going to be Conquest, where if you win with a deck, you're not allowed to play that anymore, and you'll have to move on to the next. So Petice was the winner of the EU tournament, Quitachi the winner of the Americas tournament, and they both made some really interesting choices. So Petice, after winning, I had asked, hey, what was your approach to the whole tournament, being able to ban and that sort of thing? And he said, well, he figured Druid and Rogue were going to be the 2 most popular decks. I think big surprise. So what he wanted to do was ban Rogue and then build decks that countered Druid. And, well, he did exactly that. So first off, I mean, Miracle Rogue, just a super solid deck. But an interesting inclusion here. You had Patient Assassin. Now, that's a card that you probably don't want to play in the mirror, right? Dies to Fan of Knives. Yes, it can die to Swipe, but they don't want to invest a full 4-mana spell into actually taking it out. And in the tournament, he had a moment where I believe he had sapped a taunted up Druid of the Claw, put a Patient Assassin down on the board, and it basically locked out replaying that big minion. Yeah, and even more than just Druid, I think he said, yeah, he just wanted to target those kinds of big minions. So an interesting choice within Miracle Rogue to do that kind of thing. Now with his other lists, you'll see Shaman is a kind of mid-range variety. The inclusion of the Black Knight, something that you also, I highly encourage, want to tech in if you're playing against a lot of Druid, if you're in that kind of pocket of the meta on the ladder, or if you're going to be joining a tournament like this. Absolutely, I feel like the Black Knight and auto-include in this kind of format. And generally speaking, mid-range just does very well against Druid. Shaman does well, Hunter does well, and Zoo as well. And we really didn't see a lot of Zoo, something that I think people should maybe take note of. A very, very strong deck, but another way to counter Druid. But yeah, this one single card is really great. Generally speaking, Shaman just goes wide. They've got these bodies with like 3 health. They can get buffed, they can spam their totems and get lots of value out of them with Flame Tongue, and stuff like Swipe just doesn't do that well. Then yeah, hit him with the Black Knight, big swing in your favor. This did very, very well across the board. Lots of people brought Shaman to the tournament, both regions, EU and the Americas, and yeah, did consistently well. So then you see here, Hunter, same sort of thing, mid-range, decent-sized bodies, 3 health. It's like the magic number. Even if you get that spell-powered swipe, you're just not able to clear that much. And he's got flares in there as well, which ended up being quite good against Mage, any freeze mages that were there in the tournament. And then I don't think any real surprises here. Brings a Druid of his own, right? If you think Miracle Rogue and Druid are going to be super strong, some sort of combo variety, well, you bring it yourself. So nothing real crazy here. Again, would want to point out the Black Knight, right? Really good against Druid, really good against Handlock. You might as well try to improve your odds in that mirror matchup. But yeah, not really anything surprising, you know. At least going for that 1 BGH. I could see the double BGH variety as well, because we did see a lot of Handlock in the tournament. So yeah, another thing to really keep an eye on that I think is worth noting. Now, Quitachi, when I asked him about his approach, he said he basically didn't anticipate that much aggro, and he was right. Lots of people didn't bring aggro, so he said he wasn't expecting much Zoo, not expecting much Face Hunter, and then what he tried to do is ban anything that was in that realm or mid-range. So just like how Shaman did very, very well for Petice and lots of other people who were playing it, well, if Quitachi is playing Druid, and this is Handlock here, yeah, you want to ban that Shaman, just get it out of the way. Now, I think Handlock actually does reasonably well against mid-range Shaman. It's not a matchup that I've played all that much, and I don't think we got to highlight too much of it in the tournament. But yeah, let's go and take a look at his list. Very standard Miracle Rogue. Don't think there's any surprises. Not specifically geared to anything that's, Druid or Miracle Rogue or anything like that. But yeah, in stating that he wanted to counter those kinds of control matchups, you do see the BGH again, only a single copy, and Deathwing. Deathwing's something that's very good at swinging things in your favor, especially if you're playing the Druid mirror, right? Druid does not have a lot of ways to deal with these big minions. Yeah, they might be running one BGH, but if you've got two targets here, or they just happen to not have it, I believe he said he even runs this on ladder, and he's had that experience quite a bit where Deathwing can just win you the game, swing it back in your favor, or just secure it when you're playing against another Druid. So you see people building with that in mind. Then Handlock. Handlock, a very good list at dealing with other control decks. Opted to go with Jaraxxus as well. Something that I don't think is that common on ladder, and I usually encourage people to shy away from. But again, going to this kind of tournament format, well, if you feel like you are going to get into these longer, grindier games, you're going to get a lot more value out of the hero power of Jaraxxus. So it's another great consideration. Yeah, and Handlock overall, just a super solid deck. I believe what he said was Handlock and Druid, he just expects to win a lot of those control matchups. They can just outvalue, outgrind them. And then finally, Mage. Mage here, Freeze Mage. Again, nothing too crazy in the list. It's certainly very good against aggro, and its biggest weakness being Control Warrior. I'm sure if you see a Control Warrior in your opponent's lineup, especially if you're going into that best of 5 where you need to play every single deck, it's maybe one that you would consider banning instead of something like Zoo. But this is very good in many, many matchups other than Control Warrior. Certainly good against Miracle Rogue, so that's something to consider. It is good in those aggro matchups if you happen to need it, but certainly holds its own in anything that you normally see in that kind of control style, whether it's Handlock or Combo Druid, Ramp Druid, that sort of thing. I'll link these 8 deck lists down below. I think all of them are definitely a ladder viable. You're not going to do too bad up in Legend. I'm sure you could climb in Legend with these. But it's really interesting, I think, seeing the very small tech choices that they made to cater to certain matchups. And now that I put this out there, they went and won the tournament. Very curious to see how people respond. If that is the thought process, that these are the kinds of decks that you need to counter, well, these are the types of decks that you should expect to be up against. And this is the kind of mindset that as a tournament participant, you're going to have to consider. So maybe if people are looking at countering Zoo, banning your Miracle Rogue, maybe you should consider bringing Zoo into your lineup and some other things that would counter Handlock and Druid, BGHs, Black Knights, stuff like that. All cards worth considering. Cat here says hi. So yeah, hope you'll join us for those tournaments either as a viewer or as a participant in the future.